Hello everyone and welcome to Starts at 60's online masterclass. I'm Rebecca Wilson, your host today and the founder and CEO of Starts at 60. If you're not already a part of the Starts at 60 community, I'll give you a quick rundown of who we are. We're the home of the Australian baby boomer online. We've got media, travel and insurance offers for you, plus a brand new Starts at 60 marketplace that stocks with products that over 60s love at special prices that we've negotiated direct with retail partners for our members. So make sure you check it out at startsat60.com. Now, before I introduce today's amazing panel of experts and we kick things off, I wanted to let you know how today's session will run. We have about 40 minutes of discussion with our panel, who I will introduce to you momentarily, with a panel of experts. And as we kick things off, we're going to then have 15 minutes to answer your questions. We have the chat function running down the bottom of the screen so that you can engage with other viewers while we're talking. We just ask that you be nice and respectful. We shouldn't have to ask, should we? But we're not taking questions through the chat, only those submitted via the Q&A function on the other part of the screen at the bottom. So type in your questions and we'll do our absolute best to get them. The team serve them up to us live as we're working through the session today. If we can't address your questions today, and sometimes there are some that are just too complex that we can't answer or we can't get to in the time, we'll follow up with the most pressing ones in articles on Starts at 60 over coming days and weeks. It's another great reason to make sure you're getting our emails and sign up as a member. So let me introduce these wonderful people to you today, our panel. It feels like the man in the corner up there, Noel Whittaker, doesn't need an introduction. Noel is Australia's best known financial commentator. You'll recognise him from his many appearances on radio and TV and from his newspaper columns. He's written 22 books and has another one coming soon, including the bestseller, Making Money Made Simple. And I don't think there's anything we can ask him about money matters that he doesn't have an answer for. So we invite him back regularly. We just love to hear Noel talk about money matters. Give us a wave, Noel. There he is.
Hey.
I can say the same for Rachel Lane when it comes to all things retirement living. Rachel's the founder of Aged Care Gurus, where she oversees a national network of specialist advisors who are committed to providing great advice on downsizing, retirement living and aged care. She writes regular columns in the Sydney Morning Herald, Melbourne's The Age and the Brisbane Times, and she's the editor-at-large of our downsizing hub at Starts at 60. Rachel and Noel wrote the best-selling book, Aged Care, Who Cares? And their most recent book, which we are selling in a discounted offer, thanks to them, in the marketplace, is called Downsizing Made Simple. And we'll get that offer around to everybody after the session today. So the final person I'm here to introduce to you today is Kate Melrose. And if you have a question about retirement property, she is the person to ask. Kate's the general manager of sales at our partner Ingenia Lifestyle, where she helps over 55s find the right property to suit their retirement lifestyle. She's worked in the property sector for more than 25 years and is very focused on making sure today's retirees have innovative solutions to choose from when they're deciding to spend the best years of their lives somewhere. Kate understands that our viewers today are very likely at different stages of their downsizing decision, from just starting to thinking about their retirement income, to already considering specific property options, and from speaking to many older Australians every day as a part of her job, she knows that the social isolation from COVID-19 has magnified the importance of community for many people. For others, it's raised the fears of diminishing savings, the need to cash out and access equity to help the kids, or to bolster their retirement funds. It's certainly changing times. And for some out there, people are just no doubt sick of looking around the house and the crumbling bits of paint and the little bits of timber that need fixing up. I know I feel it in my house every day that I look around. So with Kate, Noel and Rachel's help, our goal today is to help answer some of the top of mind questions you may have and offer some really practical information to help you make the right decision for you and your family. I will just throw to our fantastic sponsors today. For those who aren't already familiar with Ingenia Lifestyle, I'd like to make sure you know a little bit about them. At Starts at 60, we work with people who really care about older Australians. and the not so old Australians at 60, to provide information, products and services you value. And we couldn't do it without them. It really is a blessing to have sponsors like Ingenia. Today's masterclass has been created in partnership with Ingenia Lifestyle, the premier provider of lifestyle communities for over 55s. If you're interested in retirement income and property, Ingenia has options you might like to consider, but I'll let Kate tell you all about that because she is the guru from Ingenia. Kate, what should our viewers know about Ingenia Lifestyle?
Look, like you, Beck, we've got a great privilege. We get to work with people who come to us with such a wealth of lifelong experiences, and we are really part of helping them transition into creating the next chapter of their life. Ingenia is a publicly listed company. We're listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. Fundamentally, we create communities. We create communities for downsizers. We also, our sister company creates, Ingenia Holidays creates communities for holiday makers, and we also have an affordable rental portfolio as well. But look, Ingenia is very customer centric. We do a lot of research. So it's really, it all starts with people, the changing needs. COVID certainly presented some challenges to our market, our shared market. And it's all about, you know, I think at the moment there is a heightened demand or a heightened desire for people to be connected with community. We are tribal beings, and so the joy that Ingenia has is to create places that people can connect and come together and share thoughts, share memories, share laughs. And so it's a wonderful organisation. We're growing particularly quickly. Lifestyle communities are one of the fastest growing downsize solutions that you'll hear about today, and so it's a very exciting place to be at the moment.
It's a really interesting category. I'm excited to bring everybody more information, and we're very proud to partner with Ingenia Lifestyle to bring useful information on this category. So let's crack on. Let's start with Noel, because everybody loves to hear his voice. Tell us about how to manage our money. Noel, why are we hearing more these days about downsizing and or freeing up capital in your property as a part of retirement planning?
Well, Becca, I guess the oldest baby boomers is now 74. Even their parents may be moving into aged care. They're concerned about how long their money is going to last. They're now seeing interest rates at record lows and looking like staying that way for years. So it can be a very challenging time for people. There's also, with all this trillions of dollars spent in debt to cope with COVID, I don't think there's too much joy on the welfare scene. So it's challenging times for people. And I think one of the ways to do it is to change houses, because you reach a stage where, as you said before, the house is too big for you, you know, and the costs are too much.
They're valuable too.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so
also the government has made it clear that the three pillars are government help and compulsory super. Now, most oldies don't have too much compulsory super, and they've made it clear that your own home is part of your asset mix. The governments of all parties have made it very clear as well that they don't expect you to use your superannuation or your home as an estate planning thing to leave to your kids. They expect you to use it up. That's the way government's going.
Well, so if those are the worries people have, what are their options for increasing their income, Noel? And what are the implications of each option?
First of all, people need to know the way the age pension system works. Under the asset test, every $100,000 that you can lose, you gain about $8,000 a year in pension. That's an option. The government's very aware that a lot of people don't spend as they would like to because they're too scared of running out of money. So now there's these new products called lifetime income streams, which can give you an income stream for life indexed, but as well as that, only 60% counts for Centrelink. So you can get a big jump in your pension and a nice income for life. There's all sorts of products about. And of course, to get those, you might need to downsize, of course.
So people that are looking at their downsizing opportunity, or have they changed their views over the last period during COVID? Kate, when you're stuck within your own four walls for weeks at a time, conscious of how close your family is, how far away they might be. I mean, the people in Melbourne where Rachel is are definitely feeling it, aren't you, Rach? But you know, you start to think differently about what you want from your home. Are you seeing that, Kate, in the market?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a shift in buying interest, shift in, you know, a new customer is emerging. I think people have been isolated. What they're really, you know, aspiring to as they come out of COVID is to take control of life again. And part of that is we're tribal people. We need to be connected to other people, as we said before. So I think what we're seeing is people are considering their options. They've had some time through COVID to sit back, look around, have some conversations, open the conversation with each other and also with their children. And for many children, they're feeling quite isolated and struggling with the fact that they can't get to see mum and dad at the moment. My in-laws personally, they're in Queensland travelling around in a caravan having a lovely time. They're very happy not to be seeing us.
I'll run into my mum.
For others, it's a real challenge to have that forced separation and to think that your parents may be isolated at home. So DCM Research and AOR have just done a really interesting research study that looks at the changing perceptions of retirement from COVID. The initial research is only just coming out, but it's certainly starting to be quite clear in some of the messaging. And, you know, really what it shows is 20% felt that COVID's reduced their retirement savings. We're not surprised. 74% are feeling really isolated and very vulnerable. Only 4% are feeling that they're going to delay their downsizing decisions. And actually, we've seen people going the other way. On the ground, we're seeing, you know, inquiries spike, inspections spike, real interest in people shopping to understand what's the right option for me. And, you know, and that's something that we really encourage people to do. I think the generation also, though, are pretty pragmatic. They've faced some challenges before. They've got great life perspective. They also know that this will, with a solution, you know, things will pass and they will need to get back onto life. And so they've had a little bit of an opportunity to step back and consider and really start to plan ahead. And that's the nature of a lot of the conversations we're having. Ingenia welcomed some almost 500 people into our communities in the last 12 months. So despite COVID, we're actually seeing the opposite effect. We're actually seeing a heightened demand for people to want to be connected, social connection, and also wanting to capitalise on some money. There's a bit of fear that I'm going to have to help the kids. So people are seeing a window of opportunity to downsize now and have some money in the bank and sleep a little bit better at night.
I can't wait to find out more about how it works. So one of the issues that comes up first, though, is that people are worried that freeing up capital can impact their age pension entitlements. Is that a legitimate worry, Rachel? You're the expert here.
Yeah, look, it definitely is. And I think it's really important to understand the contract that people are entering into and how that gets assessed from a social security point of view. So depending on whether you're looking at moving into a retirement village or a granny flat arrangement or a land lease community, retirement villages and granny flats are treated in the same way. So that is to say that if you pay an amount less than what they call the entry contribution limit, which is $214,500, then they'll say that you're not a homeowner. They include the value of what you've paid in your assets for pension, but it's not going to cause an issue. You get an extra $214,500 in your asset test threshold, but under those circumstances, you can qualify for rent assistance. Likewise, the reverse is true if you pay more than $214,500. You're a homeowner and you don't qualify for rent assistance. In a land lease community, your contract is quite unique. And from a social security point of view, they recognise that. So they recognise that you're a homeowner and you own your home. So you're subject to the homeowner asset test thresholds. But because you lease the land on which it sits, you can still claim rent assistance on the site fees.
Wow.
What Noel was talking about before when it comes to the asset test. So the deeming rates at the moment are historically low. And a lot of people are not really impacted by the income test, or they're not impacted as much as what they used to be because of the drop in the deeming rates. But the asset test is definitely something to watch out for. So as a single homeowner, for example, you can have $268,000 in assets and still get the full pension. Of those, you could have about $252,000 in what they call financial assets. So that's assets that are subject to deeming, superannuation, bank accounts, term deposits, shares, all of those sorts of things. For a couple, the threshold is $401,500 if they're homeowners, and actually you could have more of that, like more than that threshold in deemed assets before you would trigger the income test. The trick to maximising your pension is to understand exactly where you sit under the asset test and the income test, and get those two things as close to each other as possible. I always say there's no gold star for getting the full pension under the asset test if you're then losing pension under the income test, or vice versa, because the way the tests work, they will pay you whichever one results in the least amount of pension. So make sure you understand where the issue is, whether it's an asset test issue or an income test issue, and you address that issue. So with what Noel was talking about before, when you go over by $100,000, they reduce your pension by $7,800 a year under the asset test. One of the simple ways in which people sometimes address that is they, what we call, supersize their downsize. So instead of buying the $300,000 home, they buy the $400,000 home. And as a result of buying the $400,000 home, they get that extra $7,800 a year of pension. So there's ways of dealing with it.
Very clever. Look, it's very, very good for everybody to understand all of this stuff, because I think it's a big part of the consideration for everyone as they take this journey, that, and it's the most poorly discussed part of the information out there. So Rachel, there is a related question. If someone's looking at the income they'd have from the pension and from freeing up equity, they'll also be thinking about their costs. What's the easiest way to compare the downsizing options on cost?
Okay, so a simple exercise, and we'll make this available as a download. It's part of our new book, but you can take the download without buying the book. Not that we want you to do that, but you know, buy the book, it's great. But what you can do is just get a piece of paper. So as it's set out there on the screen, you get a piece of paper and you can just divide it into 3. And in the top box, you put ingoing, and in the middle box, you put ongoing, and in the bottom box, you put outgoing. And you can put other lines on there so that you can compare 1, 2, or 3 different options. There might be different homes within the same community, or you might be comparing a home in one community with a home in another community. Whatever it might be, it can just help you to understand exactly what you're going to pay, when and why. Because sometimes people look at it and they say, well, this one's $300,000, this one's $400,000, the $300,000 one is cheaper. But it's like the teenagers say, right? It's yeah, but nah. So yes, the purchase price is lower, but you need to look at how much is it going to cost while you live there? What's the impact on your pension and your eligibility for renters? Comparing, say, a land lease community with a retirement village, you really need to look at that outgoing box, because typically retirement villages will have an exit fee and land lease communities won't. There's exceptions to every rule, but that's sort of the general rule. So you need to make sure that you're not just comparing one purchase price with another purchase price and deciding one is cheaper or one is more affordable than the other.
That's that's a really powerful way of setting things out, and simple, because you could have many of these things on the list of costs to compare against each other. If we take 2 of the most common downsizing options, the retirement village and the land lease community, can you help us put them side by side? Because I think that's something many people have signed on to hear from you today.
Sure. So so I ran the numbers, and you know, we've left the names out to protect the innocent and all of those sorts of things. But the things to think about is, in a land lease community, obviously the upfront cost is the cost to buy your home. And lease the land on which it sits. In a retirement village, typically you're looking at a leasehold or a license arrangement, and it's over both the house and the land that, or whatever the dwelling is. It might be an apartment. In a land lease community, you pay a weekly, fortnightly, or monthly fee, which is known as site fees. And in a retirement village, you pay a monthly fee normally, and it's called a general service charge or a recurrent charge. Typically what you find is that in the retirement villages, that fee is cheaper, and that's because they work on a cost recovery mechanism. But you've got to factor in, from a cash flow point of view, does it cost you more? Because in the land lease community, you're probably getting rent assistance, whereas in the retirement village, you might not be. In the outgoing bit, the land lease community is typically quite simple. So you sell your house for whatever you sell your house for. You meet all the usual expenses associated with selling the home. So, you know, whatever selling fees, if you want to do some sort of renovations, do some painting, things of that nature, and then the home gets sold and you get the proceeds. In the retirement village, there will typically be an exit fee. Anything between 0 and 100% is possible, but typically they're around 30-35% of the exit fees. Then there can be shares of capital gain, refurbishment costs, things like that. And more of the retirement villages are giving people different payment options. And sometimes with the different payment options, there's also different terms and conditions. So for example, you might select an option where you don't get capital gain, but as a result of not getting capital gain, you might get a guaranteed buyback. So that might be something that you want to trade off.
That's very helpful. We do hear from community members, though, that they don't want to sell their home without the security of having already found and purchased a new one. Yet there's no bridging loans for retirees. And I think you'd say, Noel, that attempting to buy before you sell isn't a risk you'd recommend anyway. Is that right?
I think buying unconditionally before you sell is extremely dangerous, because you don't know what you'll get for your house, and markets can change quickly. See, what you need is a conditional contract. So if your house doesn't sell, then you aren't committed to a large financial outlay.
I understand Ingenia Lifestyle might have an answer for this quandary, Kate. What's the
Sure
actual process of buying a land lease property?
Yeah, look, as Noel says, this is the great conundrum for most people downsizing, and it's the thing that causes them the most level of anxiety and stress is, how do I sell my house before I know where I'm going? I really want to know, you know, I've been in this house for a long time. I don't want to sell it till I'm absolutely in love with not only the bricks and mortar and the house that I'm buying, but the community that I might be in, if that's the option you're looking at. So they don't want to sell before they know where they're going. But at the same time, they don't want to be locked in until you know how much money you've got in your hand. And we just kept hearing that over and over and over again from customers in research. So we put together a really simple, easy move process. It meant that people could, with a very long lead time, you know, they can place a deposit, $1,000 to $3,000, subject to where the project's up to. That's fully refundable. But what it does for the buyer is, they can start to get confidence without pressure. They can start to think, well, okay, if I'm going to sell, that bed can go in that bedroom. I'll keep that furniture. I won't keep that piece of furniture. They're all really important things that cause anxiety for people as they're transitioning or moving. So the easy move process, you can pay your deposit, secure your preferred home, and then you don't have any risk of losing any money until you basically sold your home and you're then unconditional. So as Noel said, certainly wise, particularly with the market at the moment, not to enter into any conditional contracts or unconditional contracts, but the way we do it makes it very simple.
So you can easily get to that part that my parents got to, of casting the furnishings they don't want into my house. And all the little decorations that they had in their big house have now found their way into my second living room. Now, let's crunch the numbers. Rachel, if I'm choosing between a retirement village and a land lease community, what do my finances look like over 10 years? That's what people really want to know.
Yeah. So I took a couple of real life examples and ran the numbers. So let's say you were looking at two purchase prices that were the same, just so that we've got kind of an apples with apples scenario. So we've used a $425,000 purchase price. The site fees in a land lease community might be something like $800 a month, whereas the site fees in a retirement village might be more like $550 a month. If we fast forward 10 years, and I've just applied a 3% growth rate to that $425,000, that that home would be worth about $571,000 in 10 years' time. In the Ingenia Lifestyle Village, what you'll get back is whatever the home sells for minus the usual selling fees, commissions, any updates that you want to do. In the retirement village, we've worked on a 30% exit fee, which is quite typical within the industry, and a 50% share of capital gain, which means you'd get back about $356,000. Depending on where you are, the retirement village might be subject to a guaranteed buyback. So you're guaranteed to get that money back within a certain amount of time. A lot of the states, the guaranteed buyback period is 18 months. Some of the retirement villages will give you a guaranteed buyback inside that 18 months time. Some states don't have that guaranteed buyback period at all. So it is a state-based aspect to the legislation. So you do need to check whether or not there will be a buyback if you're, and what time frame you're looking at, depending on what state you're in.
Yeah, right. It's great to see the difference so clearly, Rachel, but $425,000 is still a substantial sum for many older Australians. What do I get for my $425,000 at Ingenia Lifestyle, Kate?
Look, Ingenia's got such a range of communities up and down the East Coast. Our prices start from $199,000 up to some of our platinum homes, which are almost up to $1 million. So there's a really broad choice to meet each individual circumstance. But if we have a look at a typical home, take our Barossa, which is one of our very popular designs, and it's designed on some basic principles that most downsizers really aspire to. Really great indoor, outdoor, al fresco and entertaining zones. Very easy lock and leaves design. You'll see there's some beautiful big rake ceilings, double car garage, and the key things are people when they downsize, it's time to reward themselves. They want their robe, good walk-in robe. They do need the second bedroom either for each other to sleep in or for visiting guests or adult children. And then that, the study is always important. So you can see a couple of visuals there of just one of our typical homes. And that particular home may vary from low 400s up to 500, even a little bit lower on some communities. So that gives you a little bit of a flavour, but certainly our price ranges start from $199 to almost $1 million,
Yeah, wow.
which is a very tailored, very, butler's pantries and really a luxury solution.
Yeah, cool. I suppose it depends on location as well. You've got communities in Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria, don't you?
We do. And we've got a growing portfolio emerging in Victoria this year and next year. Queensland, New South Wales have both our Star Collection communities and also our more affordable communities. So the land lease option really is all about freeing up some capital and putting more money in the bank. So we often say, there's only two costs in a land lease community: what you choose to pay for your house and your weekly rent, as Rachel's just alluded to. But the other factor that I often say to people is just how much money do you want in the bank? And that's a really crucial component of that. How much money does it take in the bank to let you sleep better at night? So across our portfolio, you can link through, and I think we'll share a link, but you can go through to all of our communities and have a look at each of the locations. Most of them are really beautiful coastal spots up and down the East Coast. Choose what sort of community you want to belong to. And as I say, each community has quite a range of pricing options for people.
So I've got a couple more questions before we must get over to Noel at some point here and get him talking, because we all love the advice he can give us on finances. But Kate, let's say we've seen a home you love, whether it's in a retirement village or a land lease community or an apartment. Are there other factors to consider in the whole part of this? Can you take us through, Kate, and then we're going to jump to Rachel?
Look, just very briefly, I think in any downsize decision, there's three factors. It's the financial decision, it's the physical decision, and it's the emotional decision. And so much of that emotional decision is, am I going to fit in? Are these my people? Am I going to feel connected? Am I going to find people that, I'm still working. A lot of people in our communities are still actively engaged either in paid work or casual work. So their lives can be very different. But they bring with them a wealth of experience. And Often there's skills they want to develop, and then there's new things that they want to do, or they've now finally got time to go back to develop an old skill. So really ask about what I call the soft infrastructure, what your life will be like, what the community is like. We use some basic principles from the Blue Zones, which is all around creating for your longevity, and our 7 core pillars that underpin all of our communities really enable you to connect, have a sense of belonging, have freedom. It's about your health and wellness. One of the crucial things is also about that continuum of care question, which is a really important one. You don't want to downsize. I haven't yet met anyone that puts up their hand and says, I want to go to an aged care home. And I don't think COVID's probably helped that. So really what's so crucial is if something was to happen in the future, and most of our buyers are downsizing, ready to lock and leave and travel, they're fit and they're well. But if you've got health issues, and that is a reality that comes with time, making sure that there is a continuum of care solution or a care concierge like the Ingenia Connect is a really important factor for people to consider.
Absolutely. So Rachel, I'm going to throw over to you. If we were going to sum up the advantages of a land lease community, what are they in a nutshell?
Yeah, look, and Kate's so right. There's lots of financial advantages. You know, people don't pay stamp duty, they don't pay council rates. Typically, there's no exit fee or deferred management fee, and they get to keep 100% of the capital gain. Plus, there is that affordability aspect in terms of being able to claim the pension as well as the rent assistance. But the intangible part of it is so important. So you do need to find your tribe. You do need to find the community that has the right vibe, and that's part of doing your research. So I've never met somebody who said, look, I've downsized into this community and I got a bargain, but I hate it, so I love it because it was cheap. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. You know, the way it works is that people are buying the lifestyle that they wanted. So you've got to make sure that that's what you're going to get. Get a list of all of the activities that are on. Go to the open days. Often they'll have barbecues. There's always happy hours. Sometimes there's happy hour every day. Sometimes there's more than one happy hour in a day. So go to those things, because that's where you're going to get the good oil. That's where people are going to tell you, because they live there, you know, exactly what is it like? What are the things that are going on every day, every week, every month? What are they enjoying? And you'll get a good sense of, you know, are these my people? Is this my community? And it's really, yes, the money is important. Of course, we're money people. I'm going to say the money's important, but price is just one part of a value equation. It's what you get for that price that is so important.
Yeah, it's great to hear that. Like we've been visiting communities for the last year with Ingenia, and you see them in action, and it's an enviable life. Totally enviable. So there's a final thing to consider that's really important. When I sell, I noticed yesterday that Westpac's economists were forecasting a 15% jump in national house prices between now and mid-2023. I don't think that's something people would have said 3 months ago. With Brisbane and Perth, the biggest gainers. Kate, you're in the thick of the property market. What are you hearing about the impacts of COVID-19?
Look, Beck, as we went into COVID, I think there was so many debates about, are we going into a V chain, V curve, a U curve, an L curve, what's going to be the impact? And look, I think everybody, and particularly this week, the banks have all shifted. Most of the big banks have changed their outlooks. Previously the spread was sort of 10 to down to 30% fall originally. Almost all the banks, and now consensus seems to be coming in around that sort of 5 to 6% reduction. And if you have a look at this graph here, which was released by CoreLogic this week, you can see Brisbane's already back. Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth went back into positive territory, and Brisbane's almost back on par to where it was 12 months ago in terms of its rolling average price. Sydney has been more resilient than people have thought, but probably more resilient in the mid and the lower market. The upper market has had a greater impact in the shorter term. But I think the key question is when to sell. There's two main things to consider in that. One, when is it right for you personally? And the other factor is, and when is it right in the market? And traditionally March and September are your key selling periods. Although I think with the impact of JobKeeper and the bank own holidays, there is an economic cliff still looming, and there is impact and fear that people are worried about, and it's very real. So I think we've seen a lot of people jump to market taking advantage of very low stock levels on the market at the moment, and that's why we're seeing quite good prices upheld. What the impact's going to be post JobKeeper, that's now pushed out to March. I don't think we're going to see any real impact in the property market till sort of June, July next year in terms of the data coming through. If there is negative impact. But look, the resilience has been astounding, and I think most economists and most property analysts are aligned with that.
And we can only hope we're all travelling and moving around in a prolific way by then, and that the economy is allowed to recover, isn't it? I mean, the phones are ringing in our travel team this week, so it's lovely to start hearing the sounds of activity again, and the Queensland government's announcing some good things today. So there's light in everybody's tunnel. Melbourne's looking easier every day, isn't it, down there, Rachel? Poor Rachel's been in lockdown for 7 months.
The light at the end of our tunnel might be an oncoming train, Beck.
Oh, it's coming. It's got to get better. So, Noel, it's your turn. We waited a long time for you to talk. What are your thoughts? If someone was weighing up whether to sell now or later, what should they keep in mind?
People need to understand there is no such animal as the property market. There are hundreds of property markets. And that varies from suburb to suburb, from street to street. So you've got to become an expert on your suburb, go to open houses, look in agents' windows, get a good handle on what your house will be worth. Because what is published in the papers may be meaningless for you. And just last week in the Courier Mail, they said that Balmoral, the suburb next to us, had risen 20%. The one next to it had fallen 16%. They were using average numbers. So most of these property stats are absolutely meaningless.
But they sell a lot of papers. Did you know that's the largest selling paper of the month, the one those data points come out in?
I also think, really, seeing that we've relaxed the borders today in Queensland, I wouldn't be at all surprised in 4 or 5 weeks if all the borders are open. And that would mean there were no cases today in New South Wales, none today in Queensland. So, touch
wood, Noel, touch wood.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised at all if in 4 to 6 weeks, all our borders are open.
Imagine what that would feel like as we go into Christmas.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I hope you're right.
Well, I think it will be.
Look, it's a wonderful sound that we're starting to hear around in the community in Starts at 60 of rejuvenating confidence. And it's only days of signs, but you can tell in here because we speak to 1 million people. Sure. You can really see it coming through. So let's hope your crystal ball is right there, Noel. It's a wise crystal ball. We've seen it working before.
But having said that, I think it's a long time to international travel. I mean, most of the cases now are overseas travellers, and things are terrible at the moment in Britain, Spain, France. But I think in Australia, open borders within 6 weeks. I sure hope
live in the lucky country. Let's
absolutely
hope it works that way. So, and that allows you to put more attention on the home, doesn't it? I mean, which is what we're here to talk about today. So,
and that makes a really good point there around, because crucial to that downsize decision is how much am I going to have. You can't really start the equation until you know what you might sell your house for. So as Noel said, talk to agents. The other way is to reach out to, we've got a partnership with Agent Select. They can provide a full valuation report of everything that's sold in your area and give you full advice and help you on the advice around how to choose an agent. So, reach out to our team. They can organise for a report to be sent to you. At least it's a starting point where you can start to run Rachel's ingoing, ongoing, outgoing, and start to assess scenarios for you and your family.
Absolutely. So thank you. That's got us to the end of the first questions that we sort of set up to talk through today. And I'm really grateful to have had all three of you here with the practical information everybody came for. Now we've got some questions, and we've started with the structure or the questions that people have sent in on their way through their application process. And then we're going to get on to the ones that people have thrown in through the Q&A, because they've been coming in prolifically while we've been talking. So one we've been asked a few times since your first masterclass is about weighing up the pluses and minuses, including the costs of renovating an existing home against moving into a community where properties are ready built for later life, with, for example, single level layout, age-proof bathrooms, etc. It's a tricky one to answer because of the huge variation in property values, but Rachel, can you address it?
Yeah, and look, we did do a Q&A on this on Starts at 60, which I'm sure we can shoot you a link to, but I guess there's more to the answer to that than just the bricks and mortar. So it can be costly to modify a home. Some things you can do that are relatively simple. Some things, for example, like putting in grab rails might seem simple, but you can't just, screw grab rails into plaster and expect that they're actually going to be able to hold somebody up. You need the right anchors in the wall. Likewise, widening doorways or widening hallways might be very expensive or potentially impossible, but there's more to it than just the bricks and mortar of the home. What you want to think about is location. So where is your home located? Is it a good location? Is that where you want to be? What's the distance to the shops? What's the distance to community facilities that you're using? What's the distance to family, friends? All of those sorts of aspects to it. And then also think about what kind of lifestyle does it afford you? Because yes, you can make all of those modifications, but sometimes people find that they want to be part of a community, that they find that they don't really know their neighbours anymore, that they're further away from family and friends, and they want that community aspect. So you've got to look at your home, I guess, holistically and say, even if I make the necessary modifications to the home to get it to as good a age-in-place friendly type environment, is it in the location I want to be in? Does it give me the lifestyle I want? Is it part of the community that I'm going to be interacting with, every day, every week? All of those sorts of things. Don't just look at, doorways and bathrooms and all of those sorts of things. But yeah, that's part of it.
It's really interesting to watch somebody as they go through retirement, and I watched my parents, their dad's at the top end of that baby boomer market, Noel, at 74, but when they sold their business and retired to the beach, to watch them go through what was almost an adaptation period of re-identifying with themselves. I think we all go through it at 40 or 50. You go through it again when this happens, and you leave the workplace and you leave behind all those social circles, and they just keep on going, and you've got to find all that again, and you've got to find what your hobbies are if you've been working for your purpose. Noel, you've got something there for us.
The biggest factor in health and happiness in retirement is your social network. If you just stay in your own home for many years, one stage, one partner will die or get sick, and then the surviving partner has a very lonely life. In a community, it's a much better lifestyle. As they get up.
I have another live question for you, Noel. It's just popped into my screen in front of me, which is home equity related. If I have extra money, am I better off paying down my equity credit loan, putting money into super, or using the equity credit loan to buy shares? Because I've heard that you can then deduct the borrowings from your tax return.
Well, I guess we're talking retirees here, but I mean, certainly you could borrow for shares, and shares should yield you 4% and borrowing rate should be 2%. There's a basic rule: you only borrow if you need to. All borrowing has a risk. I mean, what if the market tumbles? What if interest rates go up? So I think you only borrow if you need to. Okay. You certainly wouldn't borrow to invest in super because it's not tax deductible.
All right. And Kate, on the topic Rachel was covering earlier, does Ingenia Lifestyle think about later life issues when designing properties?
Yes, certainly, Beck. And what's interesting is we've actually seen a real shift in this. As baby boomers are coming through, they're far more discerning. A lot of them have recently dealt with mum and dad who probably put off the downsize decision. They were probably, avoiding the conversation. And what we're actually seeing is a complete reversal of that. Boomers are coming through saying, my kids aren't putting me anywhere. I really want to take control. But they really want to know that the home is designed to accommodate the what-if scenario. Now, they don't want to live with grab rails. That's not what they want to see in their beautiful new architect design home. But they do want to know that the bathroom's designed that if they need Ingenia Connect to facilitate care to come into your home, it can be, the bathroom set up appropriately and can be adaptable easily. Simple things like where your shower tap is to your shower. Doorway width, as Rachel said, flush thresholds, all of those things are really crucial in most of our design. And they're increasingly important to the buyer as we're seeing the buyer really, really value those elements. Because
surprised.
Again, they want to age in place.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, and I've watched my parents do they're the reason I started Starts at 60, so it's been really interesting to watch them do their journey into retirement and then live out a great retirement, right? It's enviable. And to watch them make decisions that are about those things, and they do it consciously. Their parents did fight with them over putting in bars around the bathroom, but they have had instances where one of their backs have had a problem and they've had to get up out of the bathroom or had a fall or things like that as a young person, a young 60-year-old, and have had to tackle those issues. So, look, I've got more questions.
It is so important, Beck. Like some of the contracts that people enter into in some of the communities are what I call carefree. So I completely get that when people are moving into these communities, it is all about the lifestyle that they intend on enjoying for a lot of years. But it is important to ask that question, what happens if I need care? Because it may not be that you need long-term care. It may be that you just need some help and support to get over an operation or something like that. But you should be asking, no matter which community you're looking at, what happens if I need care? Because what you'll find if you look at some of the contracts is that it's in the contract that if you need care, you need to leave. So, and that's not necessarily a problem as long as it matches with your expectations. As long as you're moving in there with the complete expectation that if you need care, you need to go somewhere else to get that care.
No, it's great to look for it.
Just to clarify that, the Ingenia Connect program that I referenced before is exactly that. It's a care concierge program, so that if you need care and assistance in the future, then it literally can dial up and dial down care on your terms. So it's, comes back to what drives downsize decisions. It's about giving people control, giving them choice, and giving them the flexibility if life circumstances change. And, the great thing is once people actually have ticked all those boxes, there's this newfound freedom that comes, and it's then sort of like, great, we've got the what ifs covered, they're all sorted, it's now time to get on and start enjoying life and tick off the bucket list, and let's just really, and I have to say, it's phenomenal watching people transition through that and have that new freedom. It's a real gift.
We love it. We love hearing the story. So along the same lines, Noel, if someone was thinking of making renovations to an existing property, is it possible for you to say whether it's better to pay for the renovations using super or by releasing equity through an equity release product? What should someone trying to make this decision take into consideration?
Well, I mean, most equity release products are reverse mortgages. I don't think you should borrow on a reverse mortgage because of the uncertainty, unless you need to. So I would take it out of super. Okay. If you take it out of SIP, you'll get a bigger age pension as well.
So then I have a follow-on question for that for Kate. Can a property in a land lease community such as Ingenia Lifestyles be used later on for equity release?
So generally land lease communities are your equity release. That is the reason that they've become so popular, because you're literally able to put some more money in the bank while increasing the quality of your lifestyle because you purchase your home and you lease the land. So it is an equity release initially. Having said that, we've had some extraordinary examples where people have bought in and either their partner may die and they just don't need it, the big 3-bedroom double car garage, and they might choose to move into something smaller, and the benefit with not paying stamp duty is the cost to do that's almost negligible. On the other hand, we've had a wonderful community in Victoria where a couple got divorced in that change of life. As Rach said, it's sometimes hard when you're trying to re-establish the relationship, post-retirement. They got separated, they moved in, bought 2 separate homes, unbeknownst to each other. As they immersed into the community and he got really involved with a whole range of activities and clubs, their relationship rekindled, and it's one of the loveliest stories because they actually have ended up getting remarried, supported by all the community, sold their first 2 homes and bought a bigger home together. So that's one of the joys of land lease communities, is you have that without paying stamp duty. You can purchase in and out. We've had lots of people that have bought with us 2 and 3 times, and or bought with us in different communities, because all of a sudden daughter has a bub up the coast. We bought here, we loved it, but you know, we now need to be close to Hervey Bay, or I now need to be closer to Port Stephens, etc. So that's one of the joys, is that, and it plays to that need for flexibility. You're not locked into any contract that has expensive exit fees, and that's one of the joys.
Yeah, right. I've got a tricky one for Rachel now. Could you address this?
One's all yours, right?
It involves legislation. Sorry. I'm going to say some words now, just a moment. Land lease properties are among the cheapest retirement property options, but there seems to be no absolute certainty of tenure, in that if a land lease community operator closes or repurposes, the operator can issue termination notices on residents in a community, and they are only required to use reasonable endeavours to arrange an alternative site. I'm drawing this from the Residential Lease Communities Act number 97, in case you know that off by heart. Many land lease, of course, many land lease operations are owned by individuals or families, which feels somewhat insecure. Larger organisations such as Ingenia Lifestyle seem more secure, but I'm still worried. This has come from somebody live. What security of tenure do I have in a land lease community?
Yeah, and one of the tricky parts, and it's the same with retirement villages. So land lease communities and retirement villages operate under completely different legislation, but they are state-based legislation. So you do need to know what the rules are that are going to apply to you depending on where you live. But typically what the land lease community will do is, if they're going to sell it, they will sell it to another land lease community operator. Typically a big publicly listed operator like Ingenia will come in and say, okay, this is a great opportunity for us to expand our portfolio, and they will simply keep those existing ones. And I know that you know, Ingenia have sites like that where they have bought from small operators who just couldn't make it work for whatever reason, and they keep all of those residents on their existing contracts. New residents might get a different contract, but the existing residents, to my knowledge, but maybe Kate can jump in here, have all stayed on their existing contracts.
Correct. And I think, Beck, there's often some confusion on this between holiday parks and annuals, which is where this legislation originally grew from, and where they, you know, they probably don't have as great a security of tenure with an annual in a holiday park as you do in a land lease community. And I think that's what causes some confusion. So in the land lease community, you have a title in perpetuity. If we were to sell a community or buy a community, it comes with those contractual obligations. So your inherent opportunity, your inherent right to lease that land is in perpetuity.
So that you've actually led me to another question that's just popped up live on our Facebook wall while we've been here, because we're also broadcasting this to Facebook. One of our viewers is asking, how similar is being in a land lease community to being in a long-term holiday park residence?
So look, it depends on the community that you're in. The land lease legislation, or land lease communities, grew out of the old holiday park. You know, it was technically the home is a chattel, and you purchase the chattel, you lease the land, technically. If you have, and Ingenia owns some wonderful communities that have emerged, and they're mixed communities of either holiday park and permanents, or they've emerged as an older style holiday park, permanent park. The newer style of land lease communities that Ingenia and a lot of our wonderful other people in our sector are creating are more master plan communities. They are homes that look like any other home in any other community, and with beautiful community facilities. They don't look and feel like a holiday park by any means. And there's nothing wrong with a holiday park. And I tell you, living on holidays is actually part of the premise. The number one thing people want to do when they downsize is cruise. So we've got lots of frustrated buyers at the moment that can't cruise. We are looking at...
We'll help them when it comes back.
Your cruise holiday at home at the moment is alive and well. But so yeah, it has grown out of that. But the newer lifestyle communities, if that is your perception of a lifestyle community, certainly get out there and have a look. Latitude 1 at Port Stephens, Plantations at just north of Coffs Harbour are just some of our newer style lifestyle communities, and you know they're a long way from the old holiday park. It's all about your affordability, and affordability is key because that's what helps you sleep at night.
Yeah. And I think Kate touched on it, Beck. I think the $1 million question you need to ask is, when you are leasing the land, or entering into any form of lease arrangement, you need to ask, how long is my lease for?
Yeah.
You know, when does this lease end? So some leases are 99 years, some leases are in perpetuity, like Kate said, sometimes they're lifetime, but sometimes if you're thinking about downsizing and renting, for example, you might be looking at a 6-month or a 12-month lease. So you need to know, from a security of tenure point of view, no matter what type of lease you're looking at entering into, you need to know when does that lease finish.
All right, we've got 5 minutes and 5 questions to go. How fast can we get through them all? Okay, one for Noel. The viewer asks, the federal government is talking again about including the primary residence as an asset. So if I do move into a land lease community, how will I be impacted versus, say, if I stay in a more expensive family home but had less cash or a lower income? Noel, can you tell us about this one?
Well, if you stay in a more expensive family home, your capital's locked up. So I think it's really a matter of, do you want to leave it all to your kids or spend it while you're living? Because an expensive house doesn't give you income, it gives you costs. So it's a matter of whether you want to spend your inheritance or leave it to the kids.
And it's a changing world we live in now, isn't it?
I don't think leaving a lot of money to the kids is good for them.
It's not good for you.
Look out, Noel's kids, if they're watching this webinar.
Noel's a ski.
I love it. It's the best thing to hear people spending what they've worked hard to build and enjoying it. I mean, I just think it's a wonderful thing, and I guess the best things your parents leave behind are the children themselves. Not
to help them while they're young and needed. Enjoy young, and you can spend it with them. What's the point of, when you die at 100, leaving money to your kids who are 70? It's pointless.
I go on holidays with my dad. I reckon it's the best thing we get to do.
Absolutely.
It's part of the joy.
Memories,
all right, now I'm on 4 questions to go. Here we go. This one's on a very practical matter. I think land lease communities are a great solution, but what are the options for those of us who like the vibe of living in or closer to major cities, since most land lease communities are in regional areas? Kate, can you help us with this?
Help us lobby the New South Wales government. Look, we get that question all the time, and I think as land lease communities, people are recognising it as a really big option, particularly in the affordable housing discussion, the affordable housing debate. That's well and truly top of the list on every planning agenda at the moment. There has been innovations around looking at how to go land lease vertical. There's not a solution at this stage, but majority of it is planning constraint that stops us developing within very close to inner urban areas.
All right, I'm coming through to my next one. 2 questions about Centrelink, which Noel might not mind having a go at answering. Firstly, where does Centrelink get these assets and income thresholds from, and why are they set at those levels? And do you see the income thresholds being increased anytime soon? And just before you answer, Noel, I'm just going to give everybody a little bit of clarity that we are going to let this run a little bit over because we have a few extra questions and we think everybody would like what they came for today. So just a few extra minutes at the end if you can stay on.
Those levels are set by the government, and every 6 months they change. Don't forget, two years ago there was a major tightening of them. So it's government policy sets them.
Do you see them being increased anytime soon?
Well, don't forget that the oldies are a growing number of voters. So I think governments will be loath to do anything that's going to be too unpopular at the ballot box.
Yeah, they have to go a long way ahead.
Also, more people are likely to be asset tested than income tested. They talk about the more well-off retirees, they're asset tested. anyway. So if you're asset tested, the income test doesn't matter.
Yeah. Another one for Rachel. Can you explain more about how rent assistance works when it comes to site fees at a land lease community? And are you sure there are no council rates or stamp duty on land lease properties? Is the question we've been asked live.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to add something to what Noel was just saying. One of the great things that the government did introduce around the income test that can certainly help people is the work bonus. So if you are going to keep working, then look into the work bonus. It essentially enables you to earn $300 and get a free kick. So not have that $300 count towards the pension income test. So that's a very valuable thing. Rent assistance is probably one of my favourite government payments because it's so generous. So once somebody's income goes over the threshold, and the threshold is relatively low, then rent assistance gets paid at 75 cents for every dollar of rent. So it's really, really generous. It's just not unlimited. So the maximum amount of rent assistance that someone can pay for, someone can receive, for example, is about $139 a fortnight if you're a single, and about $131 a fortnight if you're a couple. But it certainly can go a long way, and it can certainly mean the difference between, one option being more affordable than another, particularly if you're adding that to, $900 odd a fortnight of pension, then you're up over $1,000 a fortnight in terms of income position. So, what was the first bit about that? About the stamp duty and the council rate.
Second one, yeah.
Yeah. We're talking in general terms, and certainly these are the rules that apply to Ingenia. When we say that there are no exit fees, there are definitely land lease communities who do charge exit fees. So you do need to look at your individual contract. We're just talking about typically how it works. And typically there are no council rates, there is no stamp duty, and there is no exit fee.
Wonderful. This one's for Noel.
Really,
oh yeah,
really,
sorry, Kate, yeah.
The only cost that people need to consider, and I see one of your questions here, is to pay for their individual utilities and their connections. So their telephone, electricity, power, and they're responsible for maintaining their home.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, it sounds like a very nice way to manage those expenses. Now, this one's for Noel. A viewer wants to know, what are your thoughts regarding using super to buy a rental property instead of keeping funds in super, Noel?
Well, there was a report today that showed the difference between super funds. The best are producing 8 to 9%, the worst are 1.5%. So your first thing is to make sure you're in the best performing fund. Secondly, there's a big cost to buy a rental property. You'll probably be talking $30,000 or $40,000, $50,000 in costs, and cost when you sell it. And if you do need money in retirement, you can't sell the back bedroom. So I would think, unless it's the bargain of the year, I would not be catching my super to buy a rental property.
Excellent, very helpful advice. Now I have a couple of quick questions for Kate. If I buy a land lease property, but I want to travel for 3 to 6 months at a time, can I rent my property out during the times that I'm away?
Legislation differs slightly state to state. Generally, our answer is no. Generally, the benefit of buying in a land lease community is that peace of mind of like-minded neighbours, peace and quiet, and or lots of noise from happy hour. But it is that you're not going to have rentals next door, and that is, if you compare it with downsizing into maybe an apartment, one of the things that is a real issue is you can't choose your neighbours. So while you might have great neighbours on one side, you might have the screaming uni set on the other side, partying every night till 2 o'clock in the morning. And so that's something that's really a challenge. And so, yes, some legislations in some states permit you to rent it up to a period, 3 months, etc., over a given period, and it changes state by state. But it's not something that happens frequently, no.
Okay, and now I have a couple more. Do all the properties look the same, or are there different styles available?
No, there's different styles based on the community that it's in. Most communities have a little bit of a thematic, I suppose, whether it's seaside Hamptons or it depends where it is. Some of the images you might have seen, if it's our Seaside Hamptons, but our different communities might have different facades and different styles. And if you were to purchase, particularly if you join our First Choice Club, you get to choose your external, your colour schemes, what facade you like. You can actually really have a little bit of choice in tailoring the home, that is your brand new home.
And there's display units at most communities,
Yes.
Isn't there, that you can go and have a look at and really get a feel for?
Yeah, so in Brisbane, we've got display homes at Bethania and Chambers Pines. We've got most of our communities have got 4 or 5 homes in quite a broad price banding that you can just wander through and get a really good feel. If you can't get out or can't look, we've got a fantastic virtual tour of our display homes and clubhouses online.
Oh, wonderful. We'll
so you can walk
pop
through
a link
the comfort of your lounge
there. Very cool. And one more. Who pays for maintenance in a land lease community, and is there an independent body that assesses the quality of the homes built at a land lease community?
There's not an independent body, to my knowledge. The homes are covered under normal purchase consumer law and need to be compliant with consumer law. So, as if you bought a home outside a land lease community, the same rules apply. So no different in that regard. So the first part of the question was maintenance costs.
Yes.
So there isn't additional maintenance costs. You only pay one fee, and that's your weekly rent. That covers your council rates, all of your costs. It includes the maintenance of the community. Subject to the community, it may include the maintenance of your front yard, and you would just maintain your physical home in your backyard.
Wonderful. Well, look, I'm going to call for last comments from each of you. Noel, is there anything final before I wrap up that you wanted to share with us today?
I just think mainly it's an ever-changing world. Keep up to date and know your options.
Yeah, wonderful. And thank you everybody for joining with us. Rachel.
Look, I think the thing that Noel and I have heard hundreds, if not thousands of times when people talk about downsizing regrets is they regret that they didn't make the move sooner. So I would just encourage everybody to get informed and to take charge and to start enjoying the next chapter of retirement.
Okay.
Probably I'm responding to one of your questions here is we've compared land lease with retirement. How does it compare with apartment? I'd probably just raise 3 points. One is can't choose your neighbours in an apartment. You're not buying a lifestyle. You don't have somebody facilitating activities and events and connection. And the other factor is you may well save for your next big holiday and find that money gets dissipated because you get a special levy under the strata title legislation, which doesn't happen under the land lease legislation. It's got quite stringent criteria around how rents can be managed and how rents can be increased, and that gets capped.
Oh, look, thank you very much, everybody. That's about all we've got time for today. We've run a little bit over, but a video of this event will be available on startsat60.com soon if anybody's missed anything. And there will also be follow-up stories on Starts at 60 as well, on Facebook and in our newsletters. If you'd like to use some of the exercises that we suggested today that Rachel took us through, to help you make your downsizing decision, you can find simple versions in our Downsizing Essentials e-guide and more options in Rachel and Noel's new book, Downsizing Made Simple, which we have $5 off on for Starts at 60 members in our new marketplace at marketplace.startsat60.com. If you'd like to know more about any of those, just drop us a line at money@startsat60.com and we'll email you anything that you'd like to find the destination of. We'll just email us. It's the easiest way. In the meantime today, I'd like to thank our fantastic panel. Thank you so much for making the time to talk and for all the hard work in answering the questions. And of course, I'd also like to thank Ingenia Lifestyle, Australia's premium operator of lifestyle communities for over 50s. Ingenia Lifestyle will be in contact with you all soon with more essential downsizing information so you can sit down with a cuppa and talk to your family and start thinking about the next chapter of your life. And of course, we'll be back with more informative masterclasses soon. In the meantime, please stay safe and healthy. Goodbye.
Thank you.